Lindsay, what's going on? Amber, Don C. Not working late. Nice. Good to hear you. Still choppy? Okay, let me get this figured out. Oh, is it good now? Can you hear me? Give me the thumbs up if we're good. What's going on, Connor? What's going on, Craig? All right, so sorry about that, but Jimmy is on his way, having some he had some plane delays as he flies back to town. As you guys know, bit of a jet setter, Jimbo Haskell is, so he'll jump on with us as soon as he can. We have a guest coming up, Brad Ward, who covers the Cleveland Browns for the Browns Wire, which is affiliate of USA Today. Also, just let's see, he's a host and producer also of All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. So definitely a guy who's tuned in and knows all things Cleveland Browns. So we're excited to have him on here shortly. I guess the best place to start the day is to start talking about some injuries as we wait for the guests to arrive. So I wanted to get into some of this injury report because some of it's got me a little bit concerned. There's some encouraging news and notes as well with the injuries, but there's also some guys that I definitely am concerned might be missing this coming Sunday, and guys that we're not used to being absent on Sunday. So if I look up yesterday's injury report, the did not practice list included Dobbins, Pat Ricard, Devin Duvernay, Mark Andrews, Moses, Cleveland, Calais Campbell, and Marcus Peters. Now, it was listed that Devin Duvernay was on a rest day, and so was Marcus Peters. But all the other people on that list did not have a rest designation next to their name. So you start to kind of pay attention. Then limited participants yesterday were Lamar Jackson. Rashad Bateman returned back to practice, which is exciting news. Justin Houston returned back to practice on a limited basis, which is very exciting news. And then Ronnie Stanley continued kind of his normal practice routine, got in a limited session. And also in some bit of good news, a full participant in practice yesterday was Justice Hill as he continues to rehab the hamstring injury that was bugging him. But then if you look at today, because obviously there's some names on that DNP list yesterday that you want to keep track of. So if you look at today's did not participate report, again on the same report, or the same name on today's report, Pat Ricard, again, did not participate as he deals with a knee injury. Mark Andrews did not participate. Now, I heard John suggest that it was a rest day for him yesterday, but yet he misses again today. So that's kind of that's a little bit puzzling and concerning. J.K. Dobbins also did not participate as he had the knee tightness that kept him out of much of last week's game after most expected him to get a big boost in playtime. Didn't see that happen. Of course, we saw the explosion of Kenyon Drake and his game that he put on, which was phenomenal. And also missing today was Marcus Peters as he continues to deal with this quad issue. So, man, it's starting to get concerning when you see Ricard missing all week. Andrews, Dobbins, I don't expect him to play. And then, of course, Marcus Peters, that's something you want to keep an eye on. Then limited participants today, Rashad Bateman, so that's a good sign. Morgan Moses back to practice. Looks like he's on track to start on Sunday. Ben Cleveland back at practice, which is nice to see. And Calais Campbell and Justin Houston also got in limited participation today. So that's good to see because I was starting to get concerned about Calais Campbell if the foot injury was going to keep him out. Doesn't look like that's the case. Morgan Moses looks like he'll be back in at right tackle, which will then make it interesting to see what Stanley's role is at left tackle because the anticipation and the plan was for Stanley to share reps with McCary last week. But when the injury struck Morgan Moses and forced McCary into the right tackle role, they were still going to try and get Stanley out. And Stanley said, no, I want to stay in the game. I want to play more. And the fact that he's participating in practices after a big increase in workload, it's encouraging. I mean, that means that he's likely doing well and on track to not just play, but to maybe even get back to his post at left tackle. And we won't be seeing McCary in there, even if Morgan Moses is back and healthy at right tackle. So looks like got to keep an eye on what Peters might be a game time decision. Another guy, though, that, with Marcus Peters, he's not a guy that needs a ton of practice, veteran in the league. So he could participate with no practice, whereas some guys just don't have that luxury. I think the same could be said with Mark Andrews. I do not expect Dobbins to play this week, but the good news on that is the expectation is that Gus Bus is back. They asked, Greg Roman about it. Greg Roman said that Gus Bus is looking good, and they're excited to get him back. So it sounds like he'll be on track to play, and it looks like that backfield will consist of Gus Bus as well as Justice Hill and Kenyon Drake. So what combination of those guys, we'll see how many carries. We'll have to wait and see to see how that goes. What's going on, Sean Pisker? What's going on, buddy? Hope all is well at home. I was, we're friends on social media, so I hope all is well. Connor, what's going on? El Vito 52. Now, we're not going to the game, not this Sunday. We went, what was it? We went to the Sunday night game. That was our most recent. Not going to this one. Hopefully get to another game before the year's out. We'll have to kind of wait and see how the schedules go there. But yeah, so the injury report, it's kind of one of those things where some weeks it's more lengthy than others. Some weeks it's more returning players than exiting. But this week it's kind of a combination of the two. So we got some guys coming back from some long-term injuries, but then we also have some new guys popping up on the injury report that is definitely key contributors. So be on the lookout for Pat Ricard and Marcus Peters as well as Mark Andrews. But I'm excited to introduce our next guest. You guys have seen him on our program before, so if you're a longtime fan, this will be a familiar face. Again, I mentioned in the opener, he's a writer for USA Today's Browns Wire and also a host and producer on the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. I want to welcome guest and friend of the show, Brad Ward. What's going on, Brad? How you doing tonight?
What's up, Glenn? Thanks for having me back, man. Good to chat with you, brother.
Yeah, man. Excited to have you back on. It's always nice to have a consistent guest come back on. It's sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but glad to see it is tonight. Everybody wondering where Jimbo is. He's on his way. He had a plane delay, so he is on his way and will be jumping on as soon as he can. But for now, it's me and Brad to keep you company. So thanks for joining me, Brad. I appreciate it. Riding solo is not something I'm used to doing, so it's nice to have someone on here.
Hey, life happens, right?
Absolutely.
So absolutely.
All right, so let's get into this matchup because this is an exciting game, another division matchup, and so I just want to dive right into it. What more can be said about Nick Chubb that hasn't already been said? It's clear this guy, if not the best running back in the game, he's certainly in the conversation. But what's the kind of the share load between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt this year? I'm kind of curious how they're divvying up the responsibilities.
I would say for the first 5 weeks, it was Nick Chubb, over 20 carries, and that's kind of what fans were clamoring for. In a year where Baker was injured last year, fans were not happy with the amount of carries and touches that Nick Chubb got, right? And basically a lot of people saying, hey, listen, last year of Kareem Hunt here, probably in Cleveland, his deal's up after this year. You're getting prime Nick Chubb, right? Like, I think this is the best we may ever see him. He looks, extremely light at 230 pounds. He's just making people miss all over the place. Just feed him the ball. Get him the ball, right? And that was pretty well worked. Their offense ran pretty efficiently until last week when they ran into the Patriots, and they had a good plan to stop the run. And more than anything than stopping the run, just the game script was one that the Browns got behind, and getting behind, you have to throw, and they got away from the run. So the split between Kareem Hunt, though, it's pretty... I feel like they try to use Kareem like a compliment and get him a rest, so if he gets every 5 touches that Chubb gets, he probably get 1 or 2 from Kareem, something like that. Okay. And they like to use Kareem on passing downs more. He's a better pass catcher than Chubb, although he's adequate at it. But Kareem is a much better route runner and receiver of the football. So they'll use him situationally like that, and it pisses Browns fans off because it's like, oh, the most important downs of the game, your best player's not on the field because they stick Hunt out there. So, and I get that, but at the same time, Hunt is a better receiver. Chubb is best in the screen game if you're going to use him in the pass game at all.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of receiver, the Browns bring over Amari Cooper from the Cowboys as their big splash offensive signing. What's your thoughts been on Amari Cooper? Because when I watch the tape and when I watch the Browns, maybe I mean, look, I'm no expert. I'm a novice. I'm a fan first. But when I watch it, I like Peoples-Jones a little bit more than Amari Cooper. But maybe that's just a Ravens fan looking from far away. What's your thoughts on Amari?
I like them both. Amari is a technician. He is extremely good route runner, right? Like, he is very, very good in his routes, and he is fit into this offense well. He'll have a big week and then a smaller, not so great of a week, but as a whole, he's done well in this offense. And then, but I like Donovan Peoples-Jones a lot too. He brings to the table more than Amari does as far as like a big play receiver. He's a guy that'll go up and get jump balls. He's gotten a lot better as far as dependability, as far as catching. He catches everything in his catch radius. So, one of the spots that I thought that the Browns front office neglected on this roster was wide receiver. I was like, man, after Amari and Peoples-Jones, and David Bell, who they drafted, who you really can't count on because he's a rookie, it really drops off, right? Well, the way they've used their offense this year, they haven't really needed anybody besides those guys and Njoku at tight end. So, that is one place that I was wrong, and they don't really need. I think this week will be the first week that they'll really need to lean on that third wide receiver more. If we get, it sounds like we're going to get a healthy Humphrey or two healthy corners from you guys, right? So, is that that's
Marcus Peters has got me a little concerned on whether or not he's going to suit up, but.
I thought it was rest today, right? Rest today for Peters, or no?
Yeah, that's what they're saying it is, but okay. He didn't practice yesterday or today, so
okay,
that's concerning me.
Yeah, that's concerning. It's weird. The Browns have played, last year with the quirk in the schedule. They played each other played each other, and I don't think the Browns got their best corners either time. I think that this is the first time that they potentially will get their top two corners, and that will kind of change things. I would expect the Browns to have to lean a little bit more in the pass game on a guy like David Bell or even Michael Woods, who just got his first NFL catch last week, but is a guy they liked a lot and was dinged up at the beginning of the year and has been working his way back into the rotation. He's from Oklahoma. They drafted him in like the 5th or 6th round this year. So, but David Bell mainly, who's been good. He's played a lot of downs, not a lot of catches. He's had some opportune catches, good first down catches on big third downs a couple times, but really hasn't been targeted a whole lot because it's mainly been the Njoku, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones. All of the passing has gone to them. And your backs, right? So all of the passing game has gone to them. Maybe sprinkling a little Harrison Bryant, second tight end, because the Browns, they like to run the heavier personnel with two tight ends in there a lot, especially with Jacoby Brissett. So I think this week, if we get Peters healthy, right, and Humphrey, I think that the Browns will probably have to lean more towards using that third wide receiver for the first time, really, more than they've had to all year.
Yeah, and of course, David Njoku, you touched on, a mismatch issue, vertical threat from the tight end position. Seems like the Ravens would have, at least on paper, some people in-house that could handle him. Certainly Kyle Hamilton being drafted in the first round with his size and length is this is the type of matchup they had in mind. But just talk about what type of mismatches that David Njoku can cause for defenses that, you're not used to seeing the tight end be such a deep ball threat down the field.
Yeah, he runs so well with the ball. He's so hard to bring down once he gets going. He's a monstrous human being, and yeah, he goes up and he can high point the ball well, and he presents all kinds of matchup problems. If you put a tight end on him, he can run faster and he can get up higher. If you put a linebacker on him, I meant. If you put a corner on him, then he can get physical with them. If you put a safety on him, a little of both, right? So he seems to be winning a lot. They gave him this big contract in the offseason, and his numbers haven't been like glorious by any stretch of the imagination. They've kind of been pedestrian numbers compared to what they expected from him when they drafted him. And they gave him the big contract anyways because they were efficient numbers, right? They were like, all right, look at his EPA per play and all this stuff. His efficiency numbers are outstanding. We are going to give him this contract. And people were like, that is way too much money to be giving this guy. Well, he's lived up to it so far. He's had an excellent year. Big games. He's a huge part of the offense. So, yeah, he creates a lot of mismatch nightmare for people. But, the Browns' offense has been efficient when they've been able to run. Jacoby Brissett played his first 6 games better than I ever expected him to play, like far exceeded my expectations. Some very dumb turnovers at the end of games that cost them games, but as a whole body of work, he was much better than I thought. I was expecting a regression game, right, Glenn? I was expecting that game where Jacoby regresses back to what he really is, and we got that last week. He was terrible against the Patriots. Everybody was pretty bad against the Patriots last week. So, and in a drubbing. So here we are at 2-4. Lost a lot of close ones. The Jets 99.9 win probability under 2 minutes and coughed that one up. Missed a field goal against the Chargers to beat them at the end, and threw an interception with under 2 minutes inside the red zone, inside the 10-yard line, and also against Atlanta. Felt like that was right in their grasp as well and kind of coughed that one up. So, coulda, woulda, shoulda stuff, but here they are at 2-4, and they've got a lot. This is a huge stretch right here where we get you guys, and then we get Monday Night Football against the Bengals back to back. So
yeah, it's a tough stretch. And listen, you don't have to tell Ravens fans about coulda, woulda, shouldas, as the Ravens have had double-digit leads in every fourth quarter against their losses. So
I know it's been brutal for both teams, right? What was it? The Giants game, right?
Up 20-10.
Yeah, and then you guys were beating the Dolphins, right?
Oh, that was we were up. Let's see. In that game, we were up 35-14 in the fourth quarter, and we lost 35-14. And then against the Bills, up 20-3. Lost the game. I mean, so yeah, I mean, a lot of Ravens fans say, "How are we not 6-0?" And it's hard to argue, but I do want to ask about the defensive side, and you can't go any further than the 2 edge guys. And it sounds like it's not just going to be Myles Garrett, who I think I saw graded out to be the highest graded defensive player in the league last week, and with his performance. And it sounds like he's getting his running mate Jadeveon Clowney back. Is that the case? Will we see Clowney on one side and Garrett on the other?
Man, I hope so. They really need him back. So this has been, I don't know how closely you guys pay attention to the AFC North or your listeners do, but it has been the defensive side of the ball has been a debacle for the Browns this season. From the get-go. So, Joe Woods returns for his 3rd year as the defensive coordinator. It looks on paper like the Browns have good corners, good safeties. They've got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Anthony Walker at linebacker, and then you've, of course, got your edges with Clowney and Garrett. And at the end of last year where they were playing like a top 5 defense, so high expectations for this defense, right? Mm-hmm. And hey, Jacoby, run the football. Let's try to get 5 or 6 wins before Watson returns, right? It's kind of like the plan, right? You got 11 games. Can you stay around 500 before he returns? The defense has been atrocious. Breakdowns in the secondary. Denzel Ward, who you signed to a $100 million contract at corner, has been abysmal. I mean, we're talking like 20s and 30s PFF grades on a week-to-week basis. Coverage grades terrible. They have not tackled well. They have not pressured the quarterback well, with the exception of Garrett. And when Clowney hasn't played, Garrett has been not great either. It's not like he's taken over games, you know? I mean, yeah, he gets that high grade because he gets double teamed and triple teamed, but there's been nobody else opposite him that has really stepped up unless when Clowney's in the game. So they very much need him to be back. The Browns' defensive tackles are awful. So, you know, up the middle, they're very bad. They lost Anthony Walker, their Mike linebacker, for the season, and that kind of sent them into a tailspin, right? So Jacob Phillips, who's not really ready to take on that responsibility, became the Mike linebacker, and he's just terrible. He over pursues, takes bad angles, doesn't tackle well. He's really been exposed. So this game scares the crap out of me, Glenn. This game, I mean, your guys' run game scares the crap out of me. I'm very concerned about this game. You tell me how much. I've watched as much Ravens as I can. How often are the Ravens designing runs for Lamar, or is he just doing that? Is that just his normal freelance stuff?
No, I think it really. I guess it's a game-to-game basis, but some games it's clear that they're making an effort to design runs for him. But other games, man, I mean, last week's game was so incredibly frustrating for Ravens fans because let me just pull it up, because it was unbelievable the fact that they got away from the run at the end of the game, despite I think they averaged 8 yards a carry, and we didn't run it in the fourth quarter in the most important drive of the game, which is just inexcusable. Yeah, we averaged 8.8 yards per carry in last week's game, and when you look at the final drive, they decided not. They went throw as soon as they got across the 50, and ultimately no points come out of it. So I'd like to see more design runs for Lamar Jackson, but it doesn't seem like the team wants to do that. So.
Yeah, that scares me, with the inability of our defense to set the edge and contain. Now, you know, Clowney makes a big difference there. So, yeah. Your question was, you think he plays? I'm leaning towards yes, but there may be some hopefulness in there as well. He was limited today. I would like to think that they get him back for this one. I'm leaning towards yes at this point of the week, but I wouldn't be surprised. It could go either way. It's pretty close. It's probably like 60-40 if he plays or not. Because, you know, he's the kind of guy that he's done it a couple times since he's been in Cleveland where you think he's going to play all week, and then he just all of a sudden on Sunday it's like, oh, Clowney's not playing today? Yeah, he didn't, you know, for whatever reason. It's kind of weird. Let me throw this one at you while we're talking about Lamar. I've been watching with a watchful eye on his contract situation. Mm-hmm. I think it's very intriguing seeing a player represent himself, right? There's no buffer zone there, right? Like, so you're getting the straight stuff from your GM, from your front office, and I always think that that's kind of problematic, right? If there's no sweetener there, there's nobody to take that information and turn it into and make it sound better when talking to the player. I know they haven't come to an agreement, and he doesn't want to talk about it right now. How do you think this ends up? Franchise tag?
Man, I certainly hope not. That, I think, would be a loss for both sides if it ultimately ends up with a franchise tag. It seems like both sides are motivated to get a deal done, but, man, that daggone Deshaun Watson deal is just putting a monkey wrench in every freaking contract going forward.
It did, huh?
It's just crazy because, you know, as we had some cap experts on, and they filled us in on the fact that owners, when they write that monster check with those guarantees, they have to put that money in an escrow account.
Yep.
Which, you know, a lot of owners don't want to kick out $250 million to set in an account for one guy. So I understand it from both sides. I think if I'm Lamar, I'm going into his office and saying, look, if Deshaun Watson got it, I'm a unanimous MVP. I have far more, my win-loss record is better. I mean, our head-to-head, I've beaten him. So I would say that's your problem that they signed Deshaun Watson to that monster deal and that it messed up some things for others. That's not my problem. I want more than that guy. So I get why there's kind of an impasse, but
yeah,
I got to imagine with both sides being motivated to come to an agreement that eventually they will. I wonder who kind of bends more than the other. Does Lamar come down from that fully guaranteed, which is what the expectation is that he's asking for, or does the team start to inch up a little closer to giving him the deal he wants? It's going to be tough. But, man, if it ends up to being a franchise tag, there's going to be a lot of salty fans here in Baltimore, and I'm going to be one of them.
Listen, I understand. Like, I get it. Like, and you expect the player to do that, right? Like, he's sitting here saying, I've not gotten into any trouble off the field. I've won an MVP. I am this super uber superstar, right? And I can't get the same contract or a fully guaranteed contract that this guy that had, 24 freaking absurd charges against him off the field and all this stuff. He gets the fully guaranteed contract, but I can't get that. That's crazy to me. If I was him or his representation, I would be saying get the same thing, right? Like get that deal. It puts them in a bad spot. I realize that. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate. I don't know. It seems like he's asking for like what, $1 more, right?
That's what it seems. But the other tough part, Brad, is that there's no one in the room that's leaking information. Typically, the leaks come from agents, but there's no agent in the room. So it's like all these leaks that come out. It's like, is it just BS? Because
speculation.
Exactly, because I don't think either side is motivated very much to leak this stuff out because it can only make one or other side look bad, and I don't think either want to do that. It's a tough one, but I'm glad you brought up Deshaun because I got to ask you. I just saw, was it a week ago or two weeks? Other woman has come forward accusing Deshaun of coercing and pressuring. What do you think that the NFL will look at that and any other pop-up situations as, well, we've already punished him for that? Or could they review his punishment and add additional punishment if they don't think it was, enough?
So strangely enough, Glenn, and unfortunately, because it wasn't fun, trust me, my show kind of turned into like court TV for the summer. Then we had lawyers on, we had agents on. We're hashing out the language of all these lawsuits and trying to get the perspective from different people and everything. So, but my understanding is that the time frame that this accuser comes from, or the time that she's alleging this happened, is in a safe zone for the NFL, so it will not affect his suspension. So there's a certain time frame that basically they already litigated, and anything that happens in that time frame or allegedly happened in that time frame can't be litigated again by the NFL.
Wow. So what? Now this is hypothetical, Brad, but what if 10 more women came out? That all would be, just from an optics standpoint, the fans, it'd be all over ESPN. Do you think that the NFL will really stand pat?
I don't know. It's a great question, but here's my question. Like at that point, like he's settled with all these women, right? Mm-hmm. And then now there, and I don't want to get into the, let me preface my thoughts on this, and I do this often on this topic, in saying that however you feel about this, I think you have a right to feel that way about it. If you hate him and you think he's the biggest piece of crap ever, or you think that, the opposite, and some people were in it for just getting the money or whatever, however you feel about it, I think that you have a right to feel that way. So I'm not trying to persuade anybody either way. I think that probably what's the difference between 24 and 34? It seems like a lot, but when you've already litigated 24 cases and the more that they were adding on didn't make a difference at that point, really what they brought in front of the NFL was 3 cases, right? The judge threw out the 4th one. They talked about 3 cases. They brought their best 3 cases in front of the NFL. Not in front of the NFL, in front of Sue Robinson, Judge Sue Robinson at the time, and then she ruled, and then it got kicked to Roger, who kicked it to, and ultimately they came to a settlement, right? At 11 games and all the money that he has to pay. So I think with that settlement, there is some language in that settlement that a certain time frame is off limits. Like, we've already litigated that, and anybody that comes forward at this point, I get it. Optically, it would be bad, but really, 24, 34 people are come forward at this point. I mean, why are they coming forward now after all these payouts? It would be weird, right? It's just kind of, I don't know. And as long as it's not criminal, my understanding is he's pretty good to return. We just got a report from league, they're meeting right now, league meetings, right? Owners meetings, that he has done everything that he's been asked to do so far and is on track to return in December.
Okay. All right. And is the feeling that the fans will embrace him?
It's a split, right? It put the fans in a bad spot. My brother-in-law, for example, he took down all his Browns stuff, lifelong Browns fan, has a daughter, and said, that's it, I'm done. He took down everything Browns and doesn't care, won't root for him ever again. So, yeah, there are people that feel that way. I know somebody that's covered the Browns their whole life, and they immediately quit their job, moved on, didn't want to do that. Yeah, so there are people that feel that way. There are others that are somewhere in the middle, right? Like, they want to root for the Browns, but they feel bad about it, right? And then there are some people that just don't care, and they're going to root for their Browns either way. So, as a fan that covers it, I kind of look at it like this, right? And it's weird, but I think that we are truly disillusioned if we think that the people that we root for in professional sports are always good guys. Like, I think there are probably worse people that we never know about and people that do worse things on lots of the teams that we already root for. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's a little bit hypocritical to be like, oh, this guy, I'm not going to root for a team because of this guy. Well, you may have been rooting for somebody that's 10 times worse and done 10 times worse things and never known about it your entire life. I mean, so I don't know. There's some gray area there, I think.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I had to ask about Deshaun before.
Of course.
That's somebody that's got to be.
It probably just pissed off everybody in your chat here.
Nah, I don't see anybody. It looks like there's still some people angry at the Texans owner. So.
Yeah. Unfortunate stuff. I mean, the whole thing is very unfortunate. He comes across looking like a total sleazebag, and
Yeah.
A lot of things, a lot of enablers, right? So,
seems like almost a whole organization in Texas.
Yeah, but I do believe in second chances, so, I hope that he takes advantage of that, and we'll see what happens.
No doubt. Absolutely. All right, well, what's your prediction? What happens this Sunday? Do the Browns come out of the big crab cake with a win?
No, they don't. No.
Okay.
You're getting the Browns at the right time. Listen, I did a show. Everybody wants our defensive coordinator fired. A lot of people want Stefanski fired, which I don't feel that way because I think the offense has been actually quite good with Brissett.
Yeah.
And that's saying something. But they're not a very good football team right now. They're not playing complementary football. I think that the way that Baltimore attacks offensively will be very problematic for our defense. And the only thing that I can kind of hang my hat on and hope for is that the one thing that Joe Woods has kind of decently done okay as a DC for the Browns over the last 3 years is he does have experience going against Lamar, and he's done a decent job at times, slowing him down and turning him over. So you've got to hope for that, right? Like that he can lean on that past success somewhat to try to slow them down. Question, is Bateman returning anytime soon?
Yeah, he's back at practice. The expectation is that he's on track to play.
This week?
Yeah, still got
Ah.
to still got to wait and see. But he was at least a limited participant in every game, and Lamar Jackson seems to think he's going to come out there and be able to suit it up. So
What about Deshaun Jackson?
yeah, Deshaun's on the practice squad, and so Coach was asked about him possibly moving up. He said he looks good, looks to be in shape, but wasn't willing to give any inclination on whether he'd be elevated from the practice squad on Sunday.
Yeah. It feels like I think what's the spread, like 6.5, something like that.
Yeah.
If I was a betting man, I would probably take the Ravens and lay the points. So that's just because I've seen what a mess this defense is. Now, can they miraculously pull it, turn it around in 1 week? I don't think so. Like I've been talking about, like if you have so many internal problems on your defense, right? Like the best defenses in the NFL, Glenn, I think you would agree, are team-centric, game plan based on a week-to-week basis. You run your defense to stop your opponent, and you need to be flexible in the things that you do to stop your opponent, right? If you're so concerned about internally fixing, the problems when you run cover 3 and coverage drops and coverage busts and not being able to tackle. Last week it was an emphasis on tackling and the fundamentals of tackling again, right? Like if you're so focused on that internal stuff, how can you turn your attention outward to a team with a scheme so different like the Ravens? It just doesn't feel like they'll be prepared for that situation.
Yeah, and I remember the Bengals defensive coordinator talking about when preparing for the Ravens, they spend 2 full days on preparing for the Ravens offense, something they don't do for any other team that they play because it is so different and so unique. So, yeah, I agree with you. If you're having internal issues with communication breakdowns and guys just not knowing where they're at, then how do you prepare for such a unique style of offense led by maybe the most unique quarterback in history that can move the way he can? And it looks like the return of Gus Edwards might be this week as well.
Yeah.
And that's an exciting time for Ravens fans because he's looking good.
Is Dobbins dinged again? You think he's out?
I think he's out. Yeah, he had his knee tightened up last week. Now, fortunately, last week for the Ravens, Kenyon Drake had like 4 25-plus yard runs, had his most explosive game by far this year. And it looks like also not only is Gus coming back, but also Justice Hill is on track to return after having a hamstring injury a few weeks back. So looks like it's going to be a combination of Justice Hill, Kenyon Drake, and Gus Edwards in the backfield. I doubt Dobbins is going to be able to suit up.
The other thing I think about when I think about this game is like the team that if the best thing the Ravens can do is jump on the Browns early, right? Like if you let them stick around and let Nick Chubb run the ball for 4 quarters, they'll have a chance, right? But the Ravens run a very similar front, my understanding, to what New England does, right? They run they run that bear front with 5 guys. They'll run that nickel front and disguise it to make it look like a base, right? Mm-hmm. That stuff causes a lot of problems for the Browns, and it did last week in their run game. Now, the Browns' offensive line, when healthy, and they're going to be without Wyatt Teller, which is a huge part of that offensive line, is very talented in that they are multiple, right? It's not just the wide zone scheme that Stefanski deploys. Bill Callahan uses, the pin pull stuff. He uses the gap schemes. They'll do whatever they have to, and they're talented enough to deploy that run game, whatever they have to do against the fronts they're facing. Mm-hmm. Now, if, though, the game script gets all out of balance where they're playing from behind before they can make those adjustments, and you kind of neutralize the best thing that they do, and that's give the ball to Chubb to 24, right? So that's probably the best course of action. Yeah.
The thing that concerns me, and I'm going to get deeper into it when I look at the Browns' run game is can the Ravens contain the edge, because they have not been good at stopping guys from getting that edge. I look at JPP last week, struggled. Odafe Oweh's been hit or miss kind of in that regard. Even though Justin Houston looks like he might be coming back this week, he's not a guy that they really want in there much on downs 1 and 2. He's more of a third down pass rush specialist. So they're thinking maybe putting Calais out there and just going big, but he has limitations athletically now too at this point in his career. He's not going to give you much chase down from the backside at this point in his career. So I have no issues or concerns with the interior, but I have big concerns on whether or not they can turn Nick Chubb back inside and stop him from getting the edge, because they just haven't been consistent at doing so this year. And last week they were really, really poor against Saquon. So I look at Saquon and Nick Chubb is probably the two best backs in football right now, especially with the way Saquon's been running after recovering from last year's injury.
Yeah.
And man, it's scary. But now they were able to bottle up Saquon. They held him to 2.8 per carry. He only had 80-some yards on the ground despite getting a pretty big workload. So they were able to do it against Saquon at times, but there were still too many occasions where they let the edge go, and I worry that that's what Nick Chubb and the Browns are kind of going to attack.
Yeah, they may, and it'll be interesting to see. I anticipate them. They always find a way to have some success in the run game. It's just whether it's when they can do it, right, and how quickly they can make it affect the game, right? Like even against the Patriots last week, it's not like they stopped Nick Chubb. They just got such a lead quickly enough that they couldn't continue to run the ball at that pace. Yeah. And it was a little bit on Stefanski. He got away from it too soon, I think. Mm-hmm. But when Brissett's turning the ball over, I mean, if you can force Jacoby to Brissett to start throwing the ball over the field, then you're in a good position. And I just think that it's getting away from the Browns a little bit. Like this is kind of like it like if they're going to turn this around this year, it has to start here. And I don't think they're in the best place to do so right now.
Yeah, especially playing a pretty pissed off Ravens team that feels like they should be 6-0, and with good reason. Sure. I mean, that collapse against Miami they gave up 28 points in the last 15 total plays on defense. I mean, that's just an epic collapse. It's just mind-blowing to even comprehend. So I think the Browns are in a tough spot coming in against this team. And then next week with Cincinnati on the horizon, it just makes you wonder, what will the team look like if Deshaun Watson does come back in week 11, is it that he's returning?
Yeah, I think it's week it's week 12 actually, and because we have a bye week after the Bengals, and then it's at Houston, of course, which will be, of course,
that is incredible. Wow,
stupid.
Yeah. I'm sure the league had to have known that when they and that's probably just a way to get ratings, right? Like as sad as it sounds.
I think that it actually has to do with his contract tolling for the year. So, like, how there was the whole thing about that the Browns only signed him to like a $1 million base contract and whatever. Yeah. Even though they do that with a lot of other players, and lots of teams do that with their players, right? I get people were outraged. It looked bad, not a good look. They did do the same thing with Denzel Ward. I will defend him on that, and other guys, right? Because that's a way to kind of kick the can. You throw on the void years, whatever, right? But by doing that and then having it kick in for a lot of, it goes up to like 40-something next year, right? $1 million, his base salary. Well, I believe if you don't play 5 full games, I want to say, or 6. No, it's 6. If you don't play 6 full games, then your contract doesn't toll. So basically, they could have played if he didn't play in 6 full games, or wasn't and was available to play in them. Like you're not available to play in 6 full games, then his contract this year would have just told till next year, not counted, and basically started again next year. So the Browns would have had an absurd amount of cap space that they've been planning on. They're like $30 million over the cap, planning for all these cap increases in Nick Chubb's contract and Denzel's and of course Watson's. Well, now all of a sudden you don't have to pay Watson that $40 million base. You get an extra year there. That frees up a ton of cap space, and you have Watson starting week 1. Seemed like an unfair situation for the advantage to the Browns in 2023. So I think when they came to the agreement, it had a lot to do with, okay, if it's going to be anything short of a year, then we need to make sure that he plays in at least 6 games so his contract doesn't toll to 2023.
Interesting. Yeah. See, this is why we have Brad on, people, to know these things that we do not know. So certainly appreciate your insight. Well, I appreciate you coming on this week, Brad. This is only the first meeting, so I'm assuming we can have you on next time as well. Is that okay?
Hey, man, I love coming on your show. You guys are great.
Nice.
I appreciate you and having me, and I would love to come back anytime.
Perfect. All right. So just to recap, if you guys want to see what Brad's working on, you can follow Brad at Warden Sports, WARDON Sports. He's a writer for the Browns Wire, which is an affiliate with USA Today, and also host and producer of All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Brad, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate you, and look forward to chatting with you on the next one.
Hey, thanks, Glenn. Thanks for having me, and cheers to your chat there. You chat good stuff from them.
Appreciate it. All right, thanks, Brad. Take care.
Take it easy.
All right. Well, as you can hear, not a lot of optimism coming from Brad as far as whether or not Cleveland's going to come out on top with this game. And I'm not mad to hear it. I'm excited because we need this win. The Ravens are in desperate need. And, of course, anytime you're playing a division opponent, it's certainly a game that counts a little bit more than just one on the record book. So let's hope that the Ravens can move to 2-0 in the AFC North and regain, I think, their position in first place. So, all right, let's get into some of our prep here, our pregame. Of course, we have the competition that we're going to go into. I'm hoping Jimmy will make it here by then. But let's get right into the Cleveland Browns and kind of, what they like to do and how they go about moving the ball. So, on offense, to me, it's pretty clear how they want to go. They want to hand the ball to Nick Chubb and kind of lean on that rush attack as much as they can. And then only, sprinkle in Jacoby Brissett in the play action and in certain situations, but certainly don't want to put the game on the shoulder of Jacoby Brissett. They want to use him as more of a game manager. And so, it's clear that they want to run first before they pass. So they average, my man, Jimbo. I can't see you, Jimmy. Okay. All right. He's still working on some technical. Are you in the plane? He may have been just from the plane. No, Jimmy is he's on his way back. He's had some flight delays, but as you can see, my man Jimbo is he's dedicated to the cause. So he'll be here very soon. All right, so as a team, the Browns average 5.2 rushing yards per attempt, and they average 172 yards on the ground per game. Fantastic. Number one rush team in the league, even ahead of the Ravens, which is quite rare to see any team outrunning the Ravens. All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. Jimbo was trying to join the stream, and he mistakenly ended the stream mid-sentence as I was speaking. So we'll have to figure out how we're going to somehow connect the end of last stream to the beginning of this stream. But welcome back to all those who are jumping over from one to the other. We still have to get into our official show preview. If you missed our interview with Brad Ward, who covers the show, or covers the Browns, I should say, for USA Today, and also has a podcast called All Eyes on Cleveland, I think that's it. But check out the other stream to hear the portion with Brad. But Don C, Adam78, if you didn't hear, Jimmy accidentally closed down the stream as he was trying to join. So instead of joining, he simply canceled the whole stream. So I'm hoping that all of you who are watching on the other one have now figured out that we're on this one and have joined us. But I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm going to start by I started to kind of go over their offense, so I'm going to get back into that. So it's pretty clear that they want to run the ball first and pass it second. Use the run to set up their pass. But on the season, Jacoby Brissett is 60% completion percentage for 1,326 yards, has 6 touchdowns to 5 interceptions and has been sacked 9 times on the season. On the ground, Nick Chubb leads the team, 110 carries, 649 yards, which is a 5.9 per average. Also has 7 touchdowns on the season, averages 108 on the ground per game. His backup and running mate, Kareem Hunt, on the season has 259 yards rushing, averages 4.2 per carry, and has 2 touchdowns. As far as receiving goes, their leading target getter and pass catcher is Amari Cooper, has 55 targets on the season, 31 receptions for 348 yards and 4 touchdowns. But right behind him is David Njoku, who's got 27 catches on just 35 targets for 347 yards and a touchdown. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones is their third leading receiver. It's really a 3-man show out there. He's got 20 catches for 265 yards, has yet to find the end zone. Now on defense, we're going to stick with the offense, and then we're going to talk about what their offense is going to look like against our defense. So the defensive side of the ball for the Ravens, it clearly started off shaky and has gotten significantly better throughout the few weeks that we've seen since that kind of debacle against the Dolphins there. But they've gotten a lot better every week since. Now, of course, they also played Danny Dimes last week, so we got to keep that into account that they're not playing the toughest of competition as far as quarterbacks go last week. But I think they're going even further down this week with taking on Jacoby Brissett. I think he's a quarterback that he will turn the ball over if the kind of the game is placed on his shoulder. That's where the Ravens want to be, because he will throw the ball to the wrong team, hold the ball too long, which causes sacks. Really, the Ravens are going to want to try and limit the run game, limit Nick Chubb, and force Jacoby Brissett to try and move the ball, with his shoulder. And of course, when you talk about their players, the guys you want to watch out for outside of the obvious of Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper I think David Njoku is the guy that scares me the most. He's their second leading receiver, but what worries me is he's by far their leader in yards after catch. He has 172 yards after catch, nearly 100 more than Amari Cooper, who has more catches than David Njoku. So he's a guy that they want to get the ball to in space. He's a mismatch problem, as Brad was mentioning earlier. If you put a if you put a linebacker on David Njoku, good luck running with him. You put a safety or a corner on him, he's likely got a massive size advantage and knows how to take advantage of that size advantage. So, man, it's going to be a tough matchup if they can't slow down the run game, because if they can do both, if they can run the ball and then play action throw off of it, then this offense is incredibly efficient. They don't hurt themselves a lot as far as with penalties and negative plays. So they're consistently on schedule. So it's very tough to get them into 3rd and long. But that's what you want to do. You want to get them into 3rd and long. That way you can force Jacoby Brissett to beat your talented secondary. So that's kind of the effort that the defense is going to have in front of them. They got to slow down Nick Chubb and force them into 3rd and long and hope that Jacoby Brissett makes a mistake. They don't have a ton of weapons outside, but they do have some. And let's just hope that the Ravens can limit some of them. Now, it's more concerning if Marcus Peters isn't able to go, because I think if you have Peters and Marlon Humphrey, they really have a 2-man show on the outside with Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Not a lot of depth behind them at the wide receiver position. Now, there's still some, a lot of talent in the tight end room with Njoku and Harrison Bryant as well. But as far as the receivers, it's just a 2-man show. So I really hope that Peters can get out there, because I'm confident if he can, that the combination of Peters and Humphrey will certainly do a good job of slowing down their outside targets. But as far as the other side, let's get into the keys to the game as far as limiting their offense and kind of highlighting the strengths of the defense here. So my key to the game defensively is pretty simple. It's slow down Nick Chubb. Not a lot to, there's a bunch of keys. If I had to name a bunch, I would say, try and get them all schedule, because this is an offense that's typically very much so on schedule. And I think when you force them to be behind the chains, that's when you kind of expose the lesser talent of Jacoby Brissett. But right now, it's just slow down Nick Chubb. Slow down Nick Chubb. I think you win the game. Since Jimmy's not here, I'm going to fill you in on Jimmy's key to the game. He says, finish the way you start, right? I mean, We don't have to tell Ravens fans how frustrating it is to watch this team in the fourth quarter. There's just it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I think it's Dr. Jekyll's the good one. They're Dr. Jekyll through three quarters, and they're Mr. Hyde in that fourth. And so it's frustrating. So Jimmy's just hoping that they can finish the way they start. It's at this point, it's like no matter what lead they get, you still don't feel good about it going into the fourth quarter, no matter seemingly who's at quarterback, even if it is Jacoby Brissett. But that's his key to the game is to finish the way you start. And then as far as defensive breakout players, Jimmy's going to go with Kyle Hamilton. Says he's getting his first interception. That would be awesome because I think Kyle Hamilton and the coaches all need a dose of confidence. Certainly Kyle needs it for himself, but the coaches need to gain confidence in Kyle as well. And we'll see with I think some of these returning guys could start eating into Kyle's snaps, which sounds crazy because of the injury to Marcus Williams. But a lot of his role in the past couple of weeks has been kind of a linebacker role. He's been covering a lot of the flats. He's been expected to cover tight ends. Well, when Bowser comes back, I assume Bowser's going to go back into some of those roles. And so it'll be interesting to see how Kyle Hamilton's deployed once kind of the cavalry is all back and participating on the field during games. As far as my defensive breakout player, it's one of those things where it's like, man, you hope for guys. It's like, do I hope this guy does well, or am I truly expecting this guy to do well? I'm not sure where I kind of rest there, but I'm going to go with Patrick Queen. I think Patrick Queen has been trending in the right direction. I'm hopeful that this defensive line can keep him clean and allow him to run and not have him taking on guards and center. I think that's where he struggles. So as long as they keep him clean up front, as long as the big guys do their job, the guys expected to take two do so, and the others, just keep the big guys off Pat Queen and let him run. And I think he has a pretty decent week this week. All right, let's move on to the offensive side of the Cleveland Browns. The defensive side of the Cleveland Browns against the Ravens offense. All right, so defensively, let's see what they like to do. They give up 27 points per game. That's not where you want to be defensively. Joe Woods certainly getting a lot of criticism, and when you're giving up 27 points per game, when you have a loaded roster like the Browns do, I can understand why the criticism is where it is. Let's see. They give up third downs at a 38% efficiency level. They've only given up one fourth down conversion all season, so that's certainly a notch under their belt. And I know Ravens fans are always kind of holding their breath when they are faced with a fourth and short, wondering if Harbs is going to go, if he's going to be more conservative, and then ultimately if we get it. They allow 229 or 230 in the air per game and also allow 131 on the ground. So, they're giving up 5 yards per carry on the ground. That's why Brad was so scared when he was thinking about the Ravens rush attack coming into this game, because it's gotten better each week. And last week was by far its best showing. This run attack was fantastic. The holes that Kenyon Drake was afforded to run through was just insane. I think I could at least got 3 yards per carry. I might have gotten 2.5 yards per carry between, with those big holes. And I think with Moses back, Stanley resuming his post on the left side, it's an exciting time because this offensive line is getting really, really good. And if McCary can be your fifth option or your sixth option. I'm sorry. If he can be your Swiss Army knife like you're hoping, man, this is it's pretty impressive stuff. Jimbo, are you with us?
Yeah, I am so sorry for sabotaging the show, ladies and gentlemen. That was totally my fault, and I'm so sorry. Gosh,
I couldn't believe it when it popped
mistake.
up. Oh, it pops up. How was the stream? I was like, what?
All I was trying to do was innocently and quietly leave the room because I wasn't quite prepared to talk and just be able to listen so that way I could be up to speed. And
Uh-oh. We're having some issues here. Are you still in a parking garage?
I'm here.
You might be. If you're still in a parking garage, we might want to wait until you come out of that parking garage. But all right. So I was just going over their defensive numbers, and I was getting ready to get into how the offense is going to look to attack, because Brad Ward was mentioning it. You know, this rush defense for the Browns has been suspect ever since they lost Walker in the linebacker position and forced some guys into roles that maybe they just weren't ready for. He was talking about how, Jacob Phillips was forced into this middle linebacker role, and he's over pursuing. He's not playing, as they were hoping. And then Owasu Koromoa certainly having a bit of a down year after you look at the explosion he had on the scene last year, and was kind of the Lamar. He was their answer for Lamar. I think that's why they drafted JOK, was to have somebody athletically that could hang with the speed and agility that Lamar brings to the position. And they seemingly found that in Jeremiah, but seems like he's just kind of having a bit of a sophomore slump, like we see from some of these guys as they come out of college. But anyway, I just
what did he say about the kid they picked up from Atlanta?
Who's that?
Didn't they pick up a kid, the middle linebacker?
It's funny. He didn't even come up because he's still not on their depth chart, and I'm not even seeing that he's expected to play. So I don't know what's going on there. You're talking about Deion Jones, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. He's not even on there. He's currently listed on their IR. So I'm not sure what exactly is going on there, but
because that to me would have been an interesting movement and development too. But I mean, look, better for us. Obviously you want the guy to be healthy, and I'm not even worried about the Browns at full strength because they don't have a quarterback. But at the end of the day, I was interested to see kind of what his insider thoughts were there. But just curious to get your thoughts, because I've been thinking about this and listening a little bit. I know a little bit based on what you said about what Brad thinks of this defense. What are your thoughts on the defense? Where do you feel like the Ravens offense can attack and take advantage of their weaknesses? Sounds like the rushing attack or the rushing defense is suspect, but what's your take on it?
Yeah, when I look at their defense, they got some real players. They got some guys I would consider studs, but they also have some pretty big open holes. I think linebackers is the biggest one, so I think the run attack is definitely something that the Ravens should lean on. However, if they decide to load the box, man, if I'm Mark Andrews, I got to be licking my chops here. So I think they got some good players in the secondary. With I think Delpit's a solid player. I think Newsom's an okay slot corner. Denzel Ward, he's an okay player. Greedy Williams a disappointment, but he's not terrible. So I would say attack the middle of the field. Take advantage of, if they have linebackers on the field, let's make them cover. And yeah, they got some pretty decent safeties, but they're all a massive size disadvantage against Mark Andrews and even Josh Oliver, to some degree. So I think you attack the middle of the field, which is something that the Ravens like to do anyway. It's something Lamar's comfortable doing. So yeah, let's beat them up in the run game and then attack the middle of the field through the air is my opinion on the game.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I don't know. Yeah, I got you. Did you talk about your offensive breakout player of the game yet?
No. All we did was I gave your defensive key and your defensive breakout, and I talked about defensively, but I haven't given offense. But hey, something just hit me. I just remembered. I think it was Laura Roten who put up a super chat in the other stream, and of course, so now it's gone, and I don't see Laura in the chat. So, Jimmy, just don't let me forget to make that up to Laura somehow, because we never displayed her chat. So, I just didn't want to forget. But defensively, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, just to kind of bring this in, my offensive breakout player of the game is Isaiah Likely for a lot of what you were talking about. Today, while I had some time, I was studying their depth chart a bit. And just doing some reading on them and had a lot of the same thoughts that you did, in that I really think that they can be had in the middle of the field. And I mean, Mark Andrews and company. We've seen Josh Oliver, like you said, kind of come on, and I'm hoping for Isaiah Likely. He's shown moments that he can do things, and obviously he did in the preseason, but in the regular season, we've seen some things. I hope that Lamar continues to gain more and more trust in him, and the combination of him and Andrews on the field at the same time. We saw last week Andrews drew 3 guys in the same play where Isaiah got the ball. I want to see some more of that this week. and that continue to trend in that direction, I think he's gonna have himself a big game this week.
All right. Well, I certainly would be happy to see that. No doubt. He's a guy I think is going to continue to get better. It's funny. We thought he would excel right out the gate, but it looks like he's going to be kind of trickled out as the season goes. And let's see what he looks like by the season's end. My offensive key of the game is going to be lean on the run game. I want to see. It was so disappointing to see them avoid or get away from the run last week. I don't care if they have a loaded box. If you're running 8 yards per carry, I don't give a damn how many people they got in the box. Run the damn ball, 8 yards per carry. And this isn't like they had one Lamar 80-yard run that boosted the yards per carry average. No, they were cracking off chunk play after chunk play. And so, yeah, lean on that rush attack. Let's run at Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney rather than let them tear up field at our quarterback. So let's lean on the run game. And then in my offensive breakout player, I think Lamar is going to be happy to see Rashad Bateman back. I'm predicting he plays, and I'm predicting he catches a touchdown. And Lamar's excited to see his number one receiver back on the outside. What do you think, Jimbo?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I know you're trolling a little bit there, and that is totally fine. But I like the pick a lot, and I'm hopeful that I'm hopeful that Rashad can come back and make an impact in a big way. My offensive key to the game here is simply take care of the ball. You probably saw my note. I did it in all caps. Take care of the football. Take care of the football. Take care of the football. The Ravens have been beating themselves all season, and they've been finding creative ways to do it. In this last game, it was from the almost unlikeliest of suspects, being Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry, he lost us the game in a lot of ways, and I know there's other reasons why we lost that game. He's not the sole member, but at the end of the day, 2 turnovers, losing the turnover battle isn't going to do it for us. So take care of the football. I think if we can do that, combined with your key, I mean, the Ravens just need to listen to us. Like, just watch the show. Take care of the football and run it. Like, it's that simple. And to add to your point, to bolster your point, usually it's Lamar that you see at the top of the rushing attack in the box score at the end of the game. Like you said, it wasn't last week. It was Drake. So that means that we have enough in the backfield and in the guys up front to get it done without Lamar carrying the load. Let's lean on them. Let's double down on it. Let's take advantage of their athleticism on the outside and let's wear them down. Right, just like you said, let's punch them in the mouth. Now, Glenn, I got to ask you a question only because I didn't get the most up-to-date information. Honestly, I've been on a plane for a while. What do we know about Gus Edwards right now other than what we knew this morning that he's trending in the right way? Is there anything new that I missed?
Well, when Greg Roman was asked about it, his quote was this: "We're really excited getting him back." So I think he's out there, Jimbo. I mean, he has to be, right?
I think so. And I guess my follow-up to that in my mind is, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. I know you kind of want to move on, but is there any sort of an impact there? Because if you talk about running at these guys, right, you talk about wearing them down. I know we can, wear them down by stretching vertically and Drake is a fast guy and things, or stretching horizontally, but there's nothing like Gus hitting you in the mouth, in the depths of the third quarter. So do you think he has any sort of an impact? I mean, it wasn't a JK type injury. It was only the ACL. I say only the ACL. So I'm hoping that he seems to have more bounce in him coming back to this game. What are you expecting from him?
Yeah, I guess the question is what everybody's different because, you look at the way Justice Hill returned from the injury, and it looks like he's faster, he's stronger, he's more explosive than he was even before the injury. But then you look at J.K. Dobbins and it looks like he's still trying to get his explosion back. He still hasn't returned to pre-injury form. And the same can be said for Saquon. It took Saquon a full year, and now you look at him now, he's probably better than he was even as a rookie in a lot of ways. So I have to wait and see what type of Gus we have back. I'm hopeful that it's more of the Justice Hill, hit the ground running, and he's ready to contribute, but we won't know until we see Gus out there. But I will say that, part of what made Gus so great is that you get him in the fourth quarter. You get a dose of Gus in the first, a dose of Gus in the second, and then by the third and fourth, you're tired of Gus. I don't know if we'll have enough. I don't know if he'll get the carries to have that type of wear on the defense, but, they'll have to bring that wear as a committee But I will say I think that the combination of Gus and Lamar is still the one that gets me most excited because it's the thunder and lightning that they bring together. And so while I love Dobbins and I love all our guys, I still think the best combination, if you can only have one guy in the back, is still Gus and Lamar. And so I'm excited to see that this week.
It's just special, right? Like since the jump, they came out and the combination that they had, the synergy they had was special. So I agree 100%. Gives me goosebumps thinking about it, man. You remember when they came out together and just dominated that
Right
Bengals game? Lamar, I don't even think threw a pass. It was something stupid like that, right?
Yep.
I mean, it was just insane, and they're just destroying them. So I'm excited to get some more of that. But anyway, I don't want to belabor it too much. I know we got some other stuff to talk about.
Yeah, so I already went over their defensive side. We just got done, talking about the offensive side. So the next step is going to be our competition here, Jimbo. Now, I know that DK had a nice graphic put together, but I don't know where I don't know how to get it. But it was pretty cool. But we will have that graphic recapping the entire season, all the statistics. This coming Sunday, or certainly by this coming Tuesday, we'll have the whole graphic. Yeah. But I did get a sneak peek, and it was, Jimmy, I think it's fair to say it was pretty exciting to look at those standings and those statistics. Is that right?
I'm sure you feel pretty good, right? I'm pretty sure you're feeling good about that graphic.
It's backing up the point I've been trying to make all year, which is just that, the best guy doesn't always win the week. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. I'll just say this. Of all the standings, I'm going to take the accolade for best looking picture. I'm going to take that one. I'll take that one home, and I'll be all right with that.
I'm going to update that photo. DK, what the hell was that?
Oh, Brad's got it the worst, though. Oh, wait till you see Brad's. I'm pretty sure it's his 7th grade picture.
He got somehow a childhood picture of Brad as his on the scoreboard. So excited to show you guys the scoreboard. It's going to be hilarious to as we review that now going forward every week. But this is our segment that's brought to you by Prize Picks. If you guys want to help the show and help your pockets at the same time, please go over to Prize Picks. If you've not gambled before, they make it so incredibly easy. They of course will match your initial deposit with using promo code 410 up to, was it $100, Jim?
Up to $100. And Glenn, the NBA has started, so now you can gamble and make some money every single night.
Every single night. If you want to, the NBA playoffs are MLB playoffs are they in the MLB yet, Jim?
They are. And note to everyone, Steph Curry, take the over.
Yeah, you talking about tomorrow night, Friday night?
Any night. Take the over.
True. Yeah, they look really, really good in that first week, and the Lakers looked equally as bad. Let's see how they look tonight. But definitely check out Prize Picks, even if you're only have like a niche expertise, you can find whatever you think on that site, even if it's down to just player prop bets or more. Parlays, anything you want. Check out Prize Picks. Use promo code 410 to get a match for up to $100. All right, everybody, this is the most exciting portion of our preview show where we go over the competition. Each week we have a series of 5 over-unders and one closest to the pin tiebreaker if everyone's tied after the first 5 over-unders. So we have a show winner and we have a fan winner. The show winner is announced at the same time as the fan winner, and the fan winner gets to send us a address and their shirt size in our private message, and they get a shirt or hoodie at their doorstep for winning the show's competition, the fan portion of the show's competition. So let's get right into it. I believe that, let's see. Nope, he didn't. Okay. I was hoping that some of these banners were created, but it doesn't look like they are created. So let me see if I can help this out here. All right, so we're going to go over, usually we have a series of over-unders, 2 offensive, 2 defensive, and then we have the final score over-under as being kind of a tiebreaker. And then if that doesn't work, we have a closest to the pin total yardage tiebreaker to decide the winner. So, all right, I'm going to put the first one up here, Jimbo.
Oh, you got him.
Yeah, I'm just going to make it happen as we go. All right, so the first one is Kenyon Drake carries 8.5 carries is the over-under. He had 10 carries in last week's game. Jimbo, is Kenyon Drake going to have more or less than 8.5 carries?
Kenyon Drake is going over 8.5 carries.
Wow, over. And is that because of the absence of J.K. Dobbins? You feel that way?
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of it. I think that it sounds like when John was talking about him, he's gained some trust in him and really likes his style. So I'm going over. Ask me next week, even if J.K. is not back, I still say under because Gus ticks up. But this week is his first week back, and the Ravens are going to be conservative with 3-5. So I'm going over. What about you?
Yep, I go over as well for the exact same reason. I think they'll likely be a little careful with not just Gus, but also Justice Hill as he returns from the hamstring injury, which we know they can be kind of unpredictable. So we both agree there. So you say over?
Over.
Okay, because you put under on the doc. So let me fix that.
Oh, jeez, a whiz.
I mean, my goodness. See, what you're doing is you're trying to play both sides. That way, if you're wrong, you can go, well, look at the doc, or you can go, listen to me speak on the. I know your tricks, Jimbo. I'm not freaking falling for them, bro.
Yeah, okay. Look, I'm not even gonna entertain that. Okay.
I know what you're pulling, you slick little. You're trying to get over us. All right, the second over/under is Ravens rushing yards. The over/under set at 175.5. Last week they had 211, and on the season they averaged 155.7. So, Jimbo, will the Ravens rush for more or less than 175.5?
I'm going over.
Over. Okay. Big game. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to say under, but only because that's a very high number, and I think they could easily get to 165 or 170. So I'm going to say under, but just barely. And let's see the next one here. All right, we have the Browns rushing yards total at 190.5.
I already know which way you're going.
Well, which way am I going?
I'll bet the house on it you're taking the over. Bet the house on it.
That they're going to have more than 190.5 yards rushing?
Yep, because you're a non-believer. That's how you win. You're a non-believer. Where are you going?
I'm going to go under. Absolutely
all right.
Under.
Welcome to the club, bro.
I mean, look, what they did to Saquon last week, they bottled up for 85, 86 yards. If they can do that to Saquon, who gets the ball every single play, I think they can do it to Nick Chubb as well. And also I think game script will take them out of the run for the large portion of the second half. So I go under as well. All right, the next one we have another defensive over-under, and this one's exciting. I like that DK's not just taking, the easy way out on a lot of these. He's making sure he gives us a decent, high-quality a banner here. So we're going to have Travis Jones. Basically, does he get a sack? Does he not get a sack, Jimbo? He set it at 0.5. Last week, he got his first NFL sack with a fantastic bull rush, I think on the game's opening play. What's your thoughts? Does he get one?
Yeah, I'm going with under on this one. Not that I don't think he'll have an impact or have a big game, but I just feel like it's just harder to come by at that position. You have so many other responsibilities. A lot of times you're eating up double teams. It's not your sole priority. While the edge guys have other priorities, it's a bit different when you're there in the middle. You got so much going on. So it's just more difficult. So I'm going with under.
Yeah, and I agree. Same reasons. It's just a tough spot, but man, I wouldn't be shocked at all if we're both wrong in a big way on that one. But I agree. I go under as well. All right, the final over/under and first tiebreaker is the total score. DK sets it at 45.5 points. Jimbo, over/under.
All right, so let me make sure my math is right. On the doc, I have 27-21, right?
No, 27-24.
24.
Browns
You're
win.
right. Okay. So what's that math there? That's 51? No. Get out of here. No, it's a Ravens win, 27-24. My original score was 21, but I just don't trust the Ravens to win by any more than 3 these days. So I'm going with over because I believe that's 51 if my math is right.
Yep.
And, I'm going with over 27-24. Ravens get it done in the bank.
All right. Wow. It's only a 3-point win. I can't imagine seeing the Browns get to 24 points. I'm going to say under in a big way. I think they I think they beat them 24-13. I got to imagine eventually the fourth quarter collapses are going to become a thing of the past. And so I'm just going to say they're going to play the way they've been playing the first three quarters of these games and not have a total collapse in the fourth quarter. So I'm going 24-13. Decide easy win, kind of an easy win for the Ravens, which would be nice because
Glenn, you're falling in the trap. They got cheese in the bait, and you're falling in the trap, bro.
Nah, it's just like when we were at that Sunday night game, Jimbo. I have ultimate confidence in this one as well. But all right, last one, closest to the pin, second tiebreaker. Jimbo, how many yards are the Ravens going to have?
I think I put down on the dock, 415?
Yep, 415.
I think it's a lower one than last week, and so I say 415 gets it done.
415. Okay. Well, just so you know, they only had 406 yards last week. So
sorry, not last week, but what did they have against the Bengals? They put up almost 500, right?
Yeah, they had a lot against the Bengals.
Yeah,
but,
not the Giants. I've already deleted that game from my memory.
Yeah, there's a bunch we could do that too. I got the Ravens score. Gaining 400 yards. So just a little less than you, but still a fantastic and successful day. Let's see here. We got a. I'm glad I almost missed it here. Steven has a comment. He says, this whole hope thing that we do, they should be 6-0, etc. When in the season, do you think we'll really know what this team is, for better or worse? Would you bet your house Ravens make the playoffs? Would I bet my house the Ravens make the playoffs? No.
Hold on. I'm saying yes, and this is why. Bo is lit up in purple, baby. You see that? It's Purple Friday for Bo. Can you see that?
Yeah, buddy. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm betting the house. No, I'm not betting the house that the Ravens make the playoffs. You?
No, absolutely not, because they could be 6-0, but we also know, like last year, they're one injury away from possibly going on a big losing streak. So, while I'm not even going to speak it into existence,
right,
I definitely wouldn't bet my house on it, because we all know that injuries are 100% in the NFL, and so I don't want. I definitely wouldn't bet. I wouldn't bet my house on any team making the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, the Eagles could lose Jalen Hurts next week to a season-ending injury, and then what's their season look like? So, no, I wouldn't bet. But I also agree with Steven in the sense that I don't know if there's a thing the Ravens can do regular season-wise that'll silence any critics or even appease some of the more negative, portions of the fan base. I think that Steven's right in the sense that it matters now what this team does in the playoffs. I mean, they got to get there first, but I don't think the critics will be silenced until this team has playoff success. And whether that's fair or not, I think that's just the reality.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Lamar's a victim of his own success, and so he set the bar. Now he's got to go surpass that. So it just kind of is what it is at this point.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but I also understand it. I mean, when you're so dominant in the regular season and you come up short in the playoffs, it's like, yeah, we've seen you be dominant in the regular season. We've seen that. Why don't you show me more? And so let's hope that the Ravens can get on track, because I think John Harbaugh was right when he said this is a good team. It's a good football team.
Yeah.
They're just not playing good in the fourth quarter. And so they got to clear things up. And it's just weird, because now it's starting to look like it's getting into the psyche. And so that's my final question for you, Jimbo. When I hear players like Lamar talk about, when we get in the red zone, we got to finish, we got to close. And then also at the same time, they come around, they say, but we don't want to put too much emphasis on it. Like, it's almost like when they are getting in the red zone, they're going, man, we got to get this done, guys. And they're almost putting too much pressure, and it's causing them not to, like, does that make sense as like possibly a real thing, or is it like, what's your take on that?
Well, I think, the old saying is that pressure makes diamonds, right? I think pressure is okay. I think that this is a high leverage job and you learn to live with it. However, if you hear Dwayne Wade talk about pressure, it's really interesting. And I was listening to him talk about actually earlier today, in that putting expectations and pressure on yourself while also knowing you're not going to be perfect. And so putting pressure on yourself and expecting perfection are two different things. The Ravens need pressure on themselves. They have a high expectation for themselves. The fans, everybody has high expectations of them. They don't need to expect perfection, but they need to put a little fire under their backsides, and I'm completely okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm okay with it. That's a long way to answer your question, I'm okay with it being in the back of their heads right now. Because I don't know right now if it's going to have any long-term negative effects. Now, if we see a lot of choking happening, obviously they need to dial the pressure back, right? Like start to close the valve a little bit in that gasoline.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I think some of these, will they play, will they not play, could be a big factor in whether they close games down the stretch. I look at these returning guys from the edge. Justin Houston's come back to practice this week. We had the return of Ajabo and Bowser last week as they continue their rehab. So if the edge department can catch up with the secondary, as far as all those guys are coming back, I want to see what that group can do together. That edge plus that secondary, because we know they complement each other. But But yeah, that's it for us tonight. I think what I'm going to try and do is kind of couple those two episodes together, Jimbo.
Okay.
So I'm going to give it a shot. But thanks to everyone who jumped over from the other stream over to this one.
Sincerest apologies, Glenn. Thank you so much for playing Atlas tonight and carrying the whole show on your back. Much appreciated. No thank you.
Wait, what can we? I mean, Jimbo, you fly out this morning, you do a bunch of business, many states across, and then you fly back and immediately jump on the show when you land. So, I mean, thank you for the dedication and the commitment. And we'll let the fact that you ended last stream prematurely slide because of your dedication to the show.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. But Tanja, thanks for joining us. Don C, as always, appreciate your continued support. Dennis Hops, yes, better execution. Got to get better.
100%.
Tanja, Lisa Ann, appreciate you coming over and supporting from the other stream. Lenny Beeson, thanks for coming out. Living Legend, what's going on? Appreciate you joining us. Everyone else who came in, I appreciate. Laura Roten, I will make it up to you on that super chat. Don't let us forget because sometimes things get crazy.
Yeah.
But that's it for us tonight. Have a good night, and we will see you soon.